And we're going live. Give me a few minutes here so we can see how this is supposed to work. Okay, I'm not sure what I did. Oh, I had to go down here and, all right. Okay, whoever wants, is there something in the chat right now, Shelley, because I can't see the screen.
Gloria asks, I would like to know who is responsible for the appearance/maintenance with the 2 crosswalks at 9 Mile. No attention has been given them all year since I last wrote council in March of 2020.
Okay. Who wants to take that question?
Mary, can I ask clarification? Is she referring to like the flower boxes and like the flower beds and things like that that are in that area in the DDA?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
No, I'm referring to the 2 brand new medium crosswalks, planter / sections in front of the
Police department.
at 9 Mile and also in front of the courthouse.
Okay.
Are you answering?
You can answer.
Well, yeah, the city for sure, Gloria, is responsible for those refuge islands. I know we've had to fix a few things. Of course, people are getting used to them being there, it seems like. And, I guess we'd be happy to look at, again, I guess I didn't realize there were some outstanding items on that. So if you wanted to let us know, we could let city administration know again.
Well, I have written to, I talked to Miss Doom last February, and she said she'd look into it. Nobody's answered my emails except to join the Beautification Commission, but they're obviously in disarray. There's been dead shrubs and weeds 2 feet tall, and the sticks from the winter for flowers has been there for 2 winters and 2 summers now. So, I mean, it's very obvious to anyone who drives on 9 Mile from east to west.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look into it when it gets warmer here then. And I know the DDA has been discussing things at 9 and Gratiot also as to how to make things look nicer. So, yeah, sure we can.
Okay, I'm holding you to it. I know you'll do it. But I have one more question then in regards to 9 Mile. I want to compliment the city for the trees. When trees get big, you can't just put lights on them. So they put them on the trunks, and it looked really beautiful. And but you go 20 feet further and you get to the main crossway of 9 Mile, of Eastpointe at 9 Mile, and it's old 20-year-old pieces of Christmas and no lights, nothing. And that is our main road, that's our intersection, and it's like they just stopped in front of City Hall and the fire station and left the actual midsection so dark and dreary. And I should think they would maybe consider doing something really attractive, because if you're a family town, the big thing to family is children. And I know as a child I didn't have the advantage of seeing things like that, but it really makes a difference. just driving down the street with your kids in the back seat of the car, you know, and say, oh, look at that, look at that. I mean, you have to think of who all sees everything.
Ms. Gorko, I can answer that question.
Okay.
So this year, the city did invest some money in some new lighting.
Mhm.
If you notice, the police department,
Oh,
fire
yeah.
department in front of City Hall. I'm hoping that every year, as long as we have the extra money in our budget, if we can get the money in our budget, I should say, we never have extra money in our budget, but if we can find some money in our budget to advance our lights, that's what I'm hoping to go forward to. So like every year would be adding a little bit more, because buying them all at once obviously is financially unable to do that. So we're hoping to be able to add to that, and then different areas on the median will be added to, you know, throughout the years, you know, the years hopefully to come. So, and to update some of our decorations, because I know some of the decorations are very old that we have, and so we're hoping to even try to get some of them fixed up, maybe replace some of them, you know, and things like that. So we are hoping to continue to, you know, improve upon the decorations of Christmas and the holiday season.
That's wonderful. If I may make a comment, 20 years ago when I moved in here, I had some ideas and they just didn't get off the ground. And now this past year, of course, has been so up and down, you can't rely on much of anything. But I always thought, if, you know, the city business people want everybody to go and, you know, support them. And that's understandable, though for me personally, much of what's on Gratiot Avenue is not of any interest to me. It's not like a Plymouth downtown where you can see unique things. But if at the holidays they couldn't dress up their front windows like small towns do, and even Roseville, there's a floor shop that has on Gratiot that was creative enough to make lights in the window with a display. Something like that makes walking, even in winter, something to do, because if every store on Gratiot, I mean, you don't even have to be a Christmas scene. It could be putting lights on a bicycle, or just decorating the window, or putting a little tree in the window, or a train on a storefront. So I just thought that would be such a cool idea for making people get out and walk in and see the city.
No, that does sound like a really good idea. Maybe that's something that Mr. DeMonico can mention to the DDA.
That would be nice, because that's who I give all my information to when we have one.
Sure thing.
I don't want to take up all your time. I'll come back later.
So are we ready for the next comment then? Another no left turn sign really needs to be placed in front of the police department. People don't see the current sign, and that is from Michaeline.
I'm happy to respond. I guess, I think, Mary, I think you might be talking, but you're muted also. At least I think I disagreed with maybe the rest of council on this. I think if we do it correctly, and we're going to have, hopefully, with this 9 Mile project coming up, more refuge islands up and down 9 Mile, so that it makes it safer to cross at various points. You know, we only have a couple street lights. Needs to be safer. People are going to cross. You know, we could ticket everybody for jaywalking, but that's not going to end the thing. We might as well be more proactive and make it safer. And that turn is quite far from Gratiot, so I think it is fine to turn left there if we do set things up right. And you know, I think we had voted on that recently because it was a temporary traffic order. But that's how I feel about those.
Harvey, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I question a no left turn. I'm not sure that a no left turn there would make it any safer with the traffic flow. And just the other comment, I didn't jump in, Mary, was the thing in front of the police station. I can't tell you how many times the light pole has been knocked down and replaced and knocked down and replaced, maybe 3 or 4 times. And I'm thinking that although the crosswalk is nice there, I'm not sure we need a light pole replaced for the 5th or 6th time, because people turn there and they make the turn too quickly and for the inside lane, and they knock the light pole down. So I'm not sure it's economically worthwhile putting another light pole up there.
Okay, let me welcome Veronica Kleinfeld, our commissioner for our district.
Hello, I'm here
Good
if
morning.
anybody has any county questions. Just very quickly, I'm not going to be able to answer the ones with regard to vaccines. Commissioners expressed their opinion at the last meeting regarding COVID about the current system. Personally, I feel the people least likely to have the patience to try to get on through the phone or the least likely to have the capability to do it by computer are those that are in their 80s and up. So I would prefer a different system. They said they're evaluating, but have not made any determination to do something other than what they're currently doing. And all I'm hearing is frustration on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna go down the line then.
Yes.
From Stephen, he has a ranked choice voting question. Oh, but you didn't write it. Are you gonna speak, Stephen?
Yeah, he can unmute and speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So my question is, I know it was the last council meeting, some people voted for it, some people voted against it. And I just don't really, I've asked at city council, I've asked specific council members questions. I mean, the best answer I've ever got was from Mr. Baker, which I'm glad to see he's here today. How did you guys come to your decision to either support it or not support it, and why is it brought in? Like I guess my question is, why are we using it? I know it's supposed to expire. What is the plan going afterwards? Are we still going to use it? Should the residents vote on it? Because I mean, is that an option, or is it just going to be like a council vote and be implemented? And I can close it there and see if anyone can add or answer.
Mary? Yes.
Whoever you want to go first.
Whoever wants to go.
I'm happy.
I mean, I'm happy to go first. That's fine. So, we implemented ranked choice voting because the city of Eastpointe did get sued by the Department of Justice for a voting rights violation. Our settlement was to use ranked choice voting for 2 full cycles. So this election would be our last one coming up in November. After that, we'll go back to the old system. Now, if we wanted to move forward with continuing to use ranked choice voting, I guess we could probably have the ability to go to the Department of Justice and have that discussion if we wanted to keep it. But in my opinion, I would much rather see it go on the ballot and have the residents vote on it before we did implement anything. If that was even an option, it may not even be an option. That would be depending on what the Department of Justice would even allow us to do to begin with. So right now, as it stands, after this election, we'll go back to the regular voting system. The resolution that was passed at the last council meeting was just supporting the option for communities to be able to use ranked choice voting if they chose. So like the city of Ferndale passed a few years ago to use ranked choice voting, but the state won't recognize it, so they're not allowed to use it. And I think that if communities want to elect their local officials, if they vote to use that system, that they should be allowed to use that system if that's the system they vote to use to elect their local officials. And that's why I supported that resolution at that time.
I could go second. I think so. I agree with everything, except I think you meant just proposed, did fail 2-3, the resolution. But yeah, everything else, I think, were there any questions left, Stephen? I know you had asked quite a few. I think that answered most of them.
I think maybe it's a little early and I didn't word it the best way. How did the city end up being sued by the Department of Justice? I mean, for that to happen, that's like a major process. I mean, you got judges to write briefs, to get opinions, to come to a solution. I mean, it's a long process for something like that to happen. How did we ever get involved in that mess? I guess that's my question.
Okay.
I don't know. How did we end up in this situation?
I think, frankly, we don't understand exactly. They won't, we don't know for sure. They did tell us at one point that they'd been looking at us since 2010. I don't know exactly what that means, but the lawsuit was over the Voting Rights Act, Section 2. And they said that we had broken Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, essentially. It was January 10th, 2017. That we received the actual complaint that was filed. That's when the Department of Justice filed their complaint, and we were officially sued at that point. It was 10 days before the Trump administration took office. So it was during the Obama administration that Department of Justice sued us. And then essentially the whole lawsuit, as you probably heard at the beginning, was that the Department of Justice wanted us to go to districts so that the minority community could have a say in one of the districts and be able to elect the candidate of their choice, because you could write the districts so that there is essentially a majority minority district, and they'd elect the council person of their choice. So we talked about it for a long time. I mean, it was like a 2-year-long lawsuit, right? And that's where we came to ranked choice voting, which I personally think is a great thing. And I think there's so many positives to it. Compared to how we have done our elections, and especially compared to districts. I think districts was probably the word. I'd rather have the elections we had before than districts even, because then you're only voting for 2-year council people instead of 5 if we go to districts. The mayor and your council person. So that was, I guess, essentially how it had started, and then we had a long conversation about ranked choice voting eventually, and then that's where we signed that 4-year consent decree.
If I might.
Go ahead.
Mary. Sarah's right. This coming November is our last time that we'll use ranked choice voting according to the DOJ's direction. And the next election will be then for council and mayor anyway, 2023. So if the council decides to have the voters vote on it, we'll have to put it on a ballot before 2023. It could be on the primary election next year in August if this council decides to do that, or the council can decide to do nothing, and it would revert back to the regular way we have elected people for a long time.
May I comment?
Sure.
I firmly believe in one person, one vote. If I vote for who I feel is the best, I don't like to see my vote go somewhere else. I have no second choices. I vote for who I think does the job best. So I'm not in favor of ranked choice voting at all.
Can I comment on that, Mary?
Sure.
Absolutely. I want all the council to remain unmuted because, whoever wants to jump in there and respond, that's fine.
So, Gloria, I think, so ranked choice actually gives you, I think, the voter the most options. If you, as you feel like you do, you can just vote for one person then. And if that person, say there's 4 people up for election and that person takes 4th place, you don't have a second choice. And then that's essentially the end. You're not forced to vote for all 4 people in a row. So you can do that, or you can do 1 through 4 if you'd like. So leaves either option open for everybody. And I think it's the most flexible and fair, I personally believe. Yeah.
So you're saying if I vote for Mary Smith because that's who I want and I just click her, that's the end of it? I mean, that's my one vote. Okay.
Yeah, and if she...
nothing goes to anybody else.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I add one more thing about it, if I may?
Yeah, quickly.
Okay. I'm sorry. It's just
That's okay.
because when the ranked choice voting, because if you listen to people who have voted, the residents don't understand it. And I've looked into it extensively. That's why I'm asking the question. And I mean, just hypothetically, think about it as like a test question. You answer the question, you know, but then after that, people are just bubbling in because they think they have to fill all 4 out. And it's ending up, I think, with unintended consequences for the city by, you know, say somebody ended up with 49.9% in the first round, and the next person who say they were the first name on the list, you know, they get bubbled in a little bit more than the rest of the people. And then we end up with a council person that doesn't participate in the city per se. So I'm definitely not in favor of it, but I wouldn't be in favor of the city being split up into districts either. I think that's kind of a silly idea because.
Agree.
Mary,
So,
can I
but
say something?
I'll end it.
Yep. Okay, Veronica.
I don't have a problem with the concept of ranked choice voting. Where I'm struggling is if the council seats were split into 2 different races, you could still have like 4 people and nobody gets 50%, so the name drops off and then it moves up. But when they're together the way that they are, we're getting 1 vote for 2 seats. And I'm struggling with that concept. So, so I'm not choosing 2 people, I'm choosing 1 person.
Oh, no.
And then if my person goes over the line, a sliver of my vote might go to my number 2 choice. But what if I have, what if I have 2 people in a race that I equally support? I'm torn because that's where I'm having a problem, is that having 1 vote for 2 seats. If it were split, it would be easier for me. I don't know if anybody has a comment on that or how they feel about that.
Sure, I'd be happy to comment. So when there's multiple seats up like that, that's how it becomes proportional. And actually, the more seats that there'd be, then the more likely it's going to look like the voter base. So say we elected let's say all 4 council people at once, 51% of the voters in our normal elections could theoretically pick all 4 voters. But when you have a ranked choice election, and like you're saying, you do have to pick 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, your first choice gets your first vote. And then after that, like, you know, it has to go in order. It's not 2 votes like you're saying, but that's where the proportional voting comes in then. And if you have the same election with 4 voters, you would need 20% of the vote plus 1. So 20% of the voters can elect one of the 4 council, 21, let's call it 21%, can elect one of the voters. But in the normal way that things are elected, 51% of people all pick the same 4 people. All 4 of them just win, and the other 49% have no say then at all. So that's where the proportional comes in when you have 2 or more seats up. Our last election was just, of course, 1 because it was a partial term. So proportional doesn't come into play really for that. It would just be that just guarantees that the winner had a majority support, though, because as you did see in that election, no one had majority support in the first round, and so it had to go to the second round, and then it gave everybody second votes so that we did ensure that the winner had a majority of support in the community.
Would a primary accomplish the same thing?
Yes, I mean, ranked choice is essentially a primary baked in to the same election. Then you only need 1 election.
Well, if you go to if you went back to a primary, you're right. If you have like this coming November, there's 2 seats that are up, and with the regular primary, if you have more than 2 people running, then you have a primary. Okay, if you only have 2 people running, say the 2 incumbents run, nobody else is running, then you do not have a primary. However, if you have more than 2, say 3 or 4, then you have a primary, and you can vote for 2 people because it's 2 seats, and then the 2 people with the highest vote will then run in a general election. Am I not right? That's pretty much how it works. So you can vote for two people because there's two seats.
Is that it for ranked choice voting?
Okay, so I'm going through the list. If anybody has questions, please add them to the comment section if you could. Let's see. Terry Jones wrote, Ferndale implemented voter runoff several years ago. Ranked choice voting was long overdue in Eastpointe since council didn't adequately represent minorities in Eastpointe. That's from Terry Jones. If anybody wants to comment. Then I wrote, vote should not drop to another candidate. One vote is one vote. I don't understand these percentages. And that's all I have so far.
There was something else I just saw in there. I think Linda Flans had made a comment or asked a question.
Oh, there it is.
Okay, and Riola Hammond.
Yeah, I was still sticking with the ranked choice.
Okay, and then after that, Riola Hammond.
So if there's anything else on ranked choice, because then I'm going to go up to the next.
Don't waste any more of you guys' time. You can go to next.
Okay. If you got a question, please ask. That's what we're trying to do all this. So Linda, yes. Did anybody want to say something?
Yes. So the what is the plan for the traffic division? How many
That's where I'm on
officers will
to.
be in it, and what's been determined to remedy the speeding problems through our neighborhoods?
Yep.
I mean, yeah, I guess I could address that. I think the traffic division, as far as I understand, I guess maybe other council people know more than I do, will have a couple people essentially just their main job will be dedicated to enforcing traffic violations. I don't know if that is just one or two specific officers. I guess I don't know exactly how many. But that would just be their main job. And then to remedy speeding, I think it's frankly a problem in every community. I mean, everybody's got the same problem. I don't think it's a very easy thing to solve. We can do, various things. We've got the speed trailer. I think that seemed to be helpful. A lot of people have asked about it. We put it on a street, and then it seems like, people cut down a little bit on it, or at least it seems like a lot of residents have been happy, after we move that around the city onto their street or something like that. So we can do that if somebody thinks their street has a lot more speeding all of a sudden than it usually does. We could try that. And I know speed bumps has been brought up before, I guess. I don't know if maybe that's Ms. Plans where you're going. Speed bumps, to me, I researched it quite heavily. They're just very expensive. And then we'd have to pick various streets. Like, for example, Detroit did it. I looked at what Detroit had done. Their pilot program alone was $100,000. That was just a pilot to see if they were even going to do it. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think they've spent, it was like $14 million or something on their speed bump project. It was, don't quote me on that right now. I'd have to double check, but it was a very large amount of money, and they only have speed bumps on maybe a small percentage of roads. So it can get very expensive very quick, and then you need to take them down for the winter for the snowplows to come through and then put them back up.
Now, I'll comment just a bit. I'm very happy to see that they are going to have two police officers for traffic patrol. It's going to help. There are going to be a lot of people who normally speed down the street. They're going to get caught, and they're going to get the darn ticket as well. They should. Having said that, patrol cars on Lexington Avenue where I live, and the other car is on Schroeder, and somebody's speeding down Wilmot. So we're not going to catch everybody at the same time, but they're not going to know where they're stationed to catch the speeders. I have a speeder on my block, and speed bumps aren't going to help a bit. My street is from Stevens to 10 Mile Road. That's a half a mile. Where do you put the speed bump? You put it in front of my house, or do you put it right near Stevens? You put, you got to decide where you're going to, and once you go by a speed bump, there's nothing to say that they're not going to start speeding again. Yield sign, come on. How many of you watching right now have seen people blow off this yield sign? Stop sign might help, but I think the patrol officers are going to help a lot. I've gotten probably a half a dozen calls on the street where we put the Getz Park. There's no stop sign, no yield sign from Beechwood to Gratiot Avenue. Well, you know that the people are going to speed like heck right down there. So we need something there, and we need something for the whole city, because how many calls that all 5 of us get in 1 week in the summertime? And like Cardi says, you put a speed bump there, you can't plow with a speed bump there, so you have to take it off at the first snow and not put it back into the springtime. So, but I like the idea that the 2 officers that are designated for speeders.
Sarah?
Yeah, so yeah, I'll comment real quick. First of all, our police department is hiring. So if anyone knows anyone who is a police officer, try to encourage them to come to Eastpointe. So yeah, we are hiring more officers, and we are supposed to start the traffic division, and hopefully it'll start catching the speeders, because I know it's definitely a concern. It's been a concern. Like Mr. Monaco said, in every community, speeding is an issue. It's always been an issue. It's just something that happens. And one thing with the speed bumps that people don't also take into consideration is that if our police department is to respond to an emergency, they're going to be going over those speed bumps faster than they should be, which also is going to probably cause damage to their vehicles, because their mindset is to get to the spot where they're supposed to be, not worrying about the damage done to the car. So in the long run, that could cost the city more money too. It's just, doing those repairs that are going to be from the damage of having the speed bumps.
Okay. I think Briola's up next. She wanted to address the council.
Yes, hello. Hello. And first of all, thank you, Mary, and thank you to the city and county officials for coming out this morning and being available. Yeah, the city council meetings. Is there anything that you all can do where they're not so long and exhausting and they're so contentious? And it's like every meeting, there are always amendments to the agenda. Is that proper? And it's almost as if you guys are looking at it at the last minute and then making changes at that time. So is there anything that, do you all get the agenda in enough time to do that, or either add it to the next week or something?
Mary, who do you
And
want?
there's such a level of, it seems like there's a level of anger. And like I said, meeting after meeting, they're so exhausting.
Cardi, you want to jump in first?
Sure. Thanks, Riola. Yeah, good questions for sure. So a while ago, we didn't actually even have an approval of agenda item on the agenda. So now we actually, at least, because it was getting very weird, we'd add things on at various points of the meeting, if I recall, and it was just very messy. And like you said, it still doesn't go as smoothly as, I believe it should for various reasons. But the approval of the agenda, at least we have that on there now. So we should be discussing the full agenda at that point. But also we've talked about where by Friday at noon, we've got to get our items into city administration, and those will be the ones printed on the agenda. Then we have the weekend. It depends what the decision is. Sometimes a weekend is plenty of time, but sometimes, a weekend's not at all going to be plenty of time. So I think usually we'll table it or discuss it and not vote, and hopefully table it to the next meeting, and various things like that. But I try really, I don't think I add many items to the agenda at approval of the agenda. I get them in on Friday so that they're on there and everyone can read over them. But, I think some council, I think there's at least one person on council that adds things last minute all the time and not very thoroughly, researched. And I think that's what will contribute to a long meeting, like you're saying. And frankly, I think sometimes government's just messy, and that's just how it works, I guess, and how, you might get a long meeting. 3 of us have to decide on something for it to go through, or I guess 2 if only 3 of us show up to a meeting. But, I think some of this, it just depends on all 5 of us working together for a meeting to be short or long. I don't know what else to say, really.
So how do you all improve working together? I mean, would the city council would you guys be candidates for like some kind of team building, and where everything, where you can disagree without being so disagreeable, and it just, you all set, the council set the whole tone, and it's just, sometimes it's just really disappointing. Not sometimes, often.
I think Harvey wanted to jump in there.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, first of all, you're right in the respect that sometimes, how do I say that? We get a little heated. But what's the old saying? Making policy and laws is like making hot dogs. You don't want to watch that, or making sausage, I guess it is. But if you would look on the past records, probably 85% the vote is always 5-0. And we get there through discussion, we get there through comments. Any given item on the agenda, we don't know what's going to be on the agenda until we get our packet Friday evening, early evening. So we got our packet last night. I haven't looked at it yet, but I will after this meeting, and to see what's on the agenda. Then you have to then you got to study it. And there are oftentimes items on the agenda that, although you don't know who it is, you know that it's not going to be a 5-0 vote. And if it sounds pretentious, if I can slide back to when I was a mayor back in 88 to 90, I guess you could say our board was pretentious too. But you know what? When the meeting's over, is it okay, guys, where are we going to go? So we would go out and we would get a pizza and a glass of Pepsi Cola and say, hey, so yeah, you feel that you have an obligation to vote the way you think you should vote. And if sometimes comments seems a little short, maybe they are. But as a whole, our council works together. Like I said, 85% of the time it's a 5-0 vote. And oftentimes there's no discussion on some of the items because we all agree on what that particular item indicates. So yeah, but it was a good question.
Because if it was a good working relationship, and if in reviewing the agenda ahead and you see something on there, it's like, you know what, I have a question about this, or this may have happened long ago. Let me reach out to the other council member, and so that I can get, or whoever else in the city, where I can get some information, get some insight, so that I can make a better decision. But it doesn't seem like that's happening at all.
Well, reaching out for the other council members is a slippery slope, because if there's an item on the agenda and I would call the mayor, and I would call Cardi, and I would call Sylvia, and I would call Sarah, I probably could be charged with the Openness Meeting Act, because even though they're not in the same room at the same time, I'm still, searching.
Just to get background on whatever's on there, not to try to sway a decision or anything, but just to find out, hey, what went on with this?
Normally, if I have a question on the agenda, and I have questions on, I'll call our chief officer, which is the city manager, and I'll call her and say, what's this all about? Why do you have this on here? What's the point? Particularly, you're recommending this. So I would make her available to me to try to get an outlook on it.
Sarah?
So yeah, really quick. So sometimes we are required to add items to the agenda, and it's not something I don't think any of us really like to do, for the majority of us. But there are certain things in administration that might come up last minute. For instance, like the snow plowing contract. We didn't have a contract in place. We were going to get snow. We had to get that approved, so we had to add it to that agenda on Tuesday. City administration has till Wednesday to add items to the agenda. City council has till Friday at noon to add items. We get our agenda Friday evening. We have the weekend to review it. And then usually we are sending emails to administration to ask for clarification and things like that. Councilman DeMonico asked probably the most amount of questions. But yes, we get a lot of emails and responses from other council members that way. But that still only leaves us Monday and Tuesday to get those because our administration's not in on the weekends. So there is some limited time. And sometimes those conversations might lead to us having to add a discussion. The length of our meetings, I think we would all love to have shorter meetings, but I think that having that open dialogue and that conversation up there sometimes is needed. There's a lot of decisions that we need to make, and we want to have that feedback from the other council members. And even though sometimes it seems like it's not, it might be kind of heated, at the same time, like just hearing everyone else's opinion, I think is important because we are learning from each other, not just, from administration.
I think Veronica wanted to say something.
Veronica, unmute if you wanted to say something. Veronica, unmute.
Can I say one more thing then, Mary, while she...
Yeah.
I was just one minor thing. I guess, frankly, some questions, and I guess, I'm giving away a little strategy here, I guess. I ask on purpose to be answered publicly. A lot of questions I ask in emails before the meeting to get clarification, just if I don't understand. But I know some things, of course, we don't all agree, or I think that everybody should know it. It depends on what the issue is. I, on purpose, ask questions out in the public sometimes, and then sometimes we're answering a lot, from the city manager.
Okay, I'm back. I have to defend council on this. First of all, you have to look at each individual council member to make an assessment as to how you feel about them rather than looking at council as a whole. But I'm going to give you an example, Rayola, up at the county. The county executive came to us with a 911 tax, which would be $5 a year. $5 a year. And the board decided they were going to vote it down. But what they decided was they were going to take $500,000 out of the county budget and use it to offset the cost for the cities and the townships that use the county. We have Sarisa down here. We don't use the county. We weren't going to get anything. So they were going to use our tax dollars to subsidize the 911 in the wealthier areas of the county, and we were going to be left out. And they had the votes. It wasn't until an epic meltdown at a meeting where I just went on a rant and said, you will not use our tax dollars on the south end to subsidize the northern areas that are richer and leave us with a lesser 911 system. If you do that, I will fight you on everything. And one by one, the votes started to change. And I walked out of that meeting without losing $500,000. And while we haven't passed that 911 tax, it's going to come back up again. But sometimes you have to fight. You have to put them on defense if it's a really important issue. So I don't mind a contentious meeting if I can recognize when watching the meeting, there are individuals that are on the right side of this and they're passionate, and other individuals that are passionate on their side. But if I wasn't a little bit on the rude side at that meeting, right now we would be paying for Washington Township's 911 and we would not be getting tax dollars here for it.
And I do appreciate council fighting for the constituents and for the constituents. And it wasn't an individual thing just about me. It was about the betterment for the community. So I'm all for that.
Okay. Was that it, Riola?
Oh, one last thing, and I'm sorry, and I'll stop. But this is to Veronica, and I know that you said don't ask you anything about the vaccine, but but does the county or have anything about any knowledge about the pharmacies in the area that are supposed to be getting it, and does it go beyond the nursing facilities and rehab? And like I heard Meyer was supposed to be scheduling appointments.
No, they haven't talked to us about them. They seem to be a separate path. One of the things I'm looking at is, for instance, Martha T. Berry is not a medical nursing facility, so they don't get the benefit of, not Martha T. Berry, Aaron Berry. They don't get the benefit of the county facility. And I think that we need to set up some mobile units or something of that nature. I know there are a lot of discussions going on with respect to that, but with respect to the farms like CVS and Walgreens and all that, the county isn't really coordinating or doing any of that. Ours is specifically the stuff that comes down to us and who we pass it out to.
Let me give you a bit of information. I went over to Walgreens on 10 Mile Road to pick up a prescription, and I asked, "Are you taking names for the vaccine?" He said, "Yeah." So he got out his pencil and pad and took my name and telephone number and my age. So 10 Mile Road and Grush at Walgreens, they are taking your names to call you when they get the shots.
Okay, thank you.
Shelley?
Yes.
Let me ask you a question. I noticed there are a lot of comments in the chat.
Yeah, I'm reading them.
Yeah, no, I was about to say, if council would like to scroll through and look at some of those and then choose which ones they want to address.
I was just going to go one by one.
Okay, well, now no, if people have to leave, I'm going to be here to 12, so whatever your pleasure.
Okay, so the next on the list was from Stephen. How about someone address the gunfire that is not normal in Eastpointe, and what is bringing it in? Anybody?
Could you read it again? I didn't.
Yes, he wants to know about all the gunfire that's going on in our city.
Are you answering, Harvey, or?
Well, I guess that's a good question. What do we know about the gunfire? I don't know. We have a police department. When there's, it's like the last thing we had, and it was on Facebook. Remember, the lady was out smoking a cigarette, and there was a shooting down the street, and she heard several shots. The police investigate those pretty quickly. They're not letting those go by. When they get a report there's been a shooting, whether it's domestic or a drive-by, and those are terrible. Or so many young people get killed because of drive-bys. It breaks your heart. You just want to start crying. But the police are on top of it as soon as they get a report that there's been a shooting, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could go next.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think this is a very big question. Of course, there's so many social issues. I mean, I think really the police are the last people at this point, right? The shooting has already happened, and the police are showing up to figure out, and hopefully we can solve and, have justice on whatever happened. We could have, we've got 40 officers essentially in the city. We could have 400, and these shootings aren't going to stop. We need to figure out what's going on before that. I mean, everyone's under immense social pressures on all kinds of things right now with a pandemic. COVID-19, I think, is just exacerbating some issues that have already existed before this. And so I think it's definitely, an issue I hope we can solve as a, society, but I don't think it's something that just the city council, alone, we're not going to be able to solve this. And just one thing I always try to keep in mind too is we hear about everything immediately, right, nowadays. Especially if anyone's like, back in my day, we didn't have, crime like this. That's just not true. Look at FBI stats and then just think about how you get your information now. The second something happens, you hear about it. So you hear about every single major incident now. You weren't hearing about that, even just like a decade ago. So of course, we still want to address it, but I just try to keep that in mind when we're talking about this.
And I'll have a couple of things to add real quick. Yeah, our police department, I think, is working really hard to try to prevent or solve a lot of these cases. I know that they do work really well with other communities. We always have, Eastpointe always has worked well with other communities to share information and leads and things like that might help. But also, like Mr. Monaco was saying, I mean, we do live in a society now where our police department has the advantage because they're getting camera video footage from all these different homes that have it. And our community really reaches out and works with our police department to also help provide that information. So, I mean, that really helps too. So they are getting solved. A lot of them have been solved. There's still a few that have not, but our police department definitely is working diligently on trying to solve any sort of crime issues in the city.
Okay, anybody else? I'm going to move down the list. Janine wanted to know if it would be cheaper for stop signs. And somebody else, Gloria, mentioned the same thing about stop signs on Niels and Furwood. This is regarding to the speeding, sorry. I'm just trying to make sure I get everybody's comments in. Linda Flan says she would like more police presence. That's what she thinks. And then there's a big letter from Terry Jones in the comments. Would you guys like me to read that? Okay, the speeding is on the side streets, not the main drags. They turn off the main drags onto the side streets at speeds well over 50, mostly young males in Dodge Chargers. Sorry, they don't get caught since the cops rarely come down our block. Put the speed bumps 3 to 5 houses off the main drags. You'd need 2 per block to ruin it for the speeders, and this is at all hours of the day and night. Hardly anyone stops for stop signs. They treat them as yield signs, if they even bother to slow down or stop at all. And if and when pot shops set up, it'll be far worse with speeding, failing to stop, etc. The kids will suffer the most with the adults setting a horrible example, smoking pot in front of them. They will have it hard enough. They don't need any type of drugs used in front of them. They don't need to be exposed to drugs, period. This includes cigarettes and alcohol. They need to learn how to cope without using drugs for stress and relief, etc. when they turn 21 and want to try drugs. Then they'll legal. Too many bad examples set. That was from Terry Jones to everyone. Any comments? Going on to the next one. This one's from me. Why the new fleet code enforcement vehicles during a pandemic? Anybody?
Happy to.
Say the question again. What was the question again?
Why the new fleet of code enforcement vehicles during a pandemic?
Well, I guess I don't mind answering this first. I guess this will be a precursor to Tuesday, but this is, and I'm just speaking for myself, I have the same question. Council never approved it. So frankly, we should not have those vehicles. City Council, back when we talked about doing the leasing of vehicles, we gave city administration permission to lease some police vehicles and 1 fire vehicle. We said nothing about any other vehicles in the city. We figured we'd try a leasing program with that. At the time, the city manager did propose, and this isn't the same manager we have now. This would have been when Joseph Sabota was the manager. He proposed essentially doing the whole city leasing, but the rest of us, at the time, the council had essentially voted just to do police and the 1 fire vehicle. So on Tuesday, hopefully we are addressing this, and I certainly did not approve of that.
I agree with Councilman DeMonico 100% with exactly what he said. That's exactly the situation. It was a surprise to us as well when those vehicles were leased, because we were unaware of it.
So does anybody get held accountable for all the protocol violations that are happening here?
Definitely. There are people who have been held accountable for it.
I mean, I don't mean to cut in, but how does the city council not have control of cars being bought by the city? Because I mean, I was actually going to say something because I noticed it by just the stickers on the side of the door look terrible. I mean, they don't match the rest of the other city vehicles. I mean, everything was all the same color, all the same logo, so you knew who they were when they were driving by. You know, because I used to see code enforcement drive all around the city all the time. And I happened to see the car drive by and I was like, wow, like, I wonder who put those stickers on that car, because it doesn't look like very professional like it did before. And I don't mean just to cut in, but I completely agree. I don't understand how that could possibly happen. I mean, how does that happen? I mean, if you guys could explain it to the residents, how does the city buy cars or lease cars without council's approval? Like, how does that process even happen?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, well, try to address that. I think just this is the messy part of government, I guess I would have to say, because city council, yes, if everything worked perfectly, this would have never happened and should never have happened. I completely agree.
But we have a
with that.
lawyer for all this, right?
Yes, who does represent, yes, the entire city. And so how I'm just looking at it like this is just, I think, need to fix this. And there's very, there's very specific ordinances. It says any purchases over 5,000, it's very specific, need to be approved by city council. If that doesn't happen, then I think it's just,
and that's a huge amount. $5,000 is a lot.
What'd you say? Sorry.
$5,000 is a lot of money to be able to spend and not get approval.
Sure, and that's the part where we hire a city manager so that we don't worry about the day-to-day. So I guess the 5,000's been it's been that amount for a while, but it's supposed to be, at least to me, I read it as high enough so that city council doesn't have to be involved in day-to-day purchases, and we're involved when it's more of a capital thing that goes on.
Who buys things for $1,000 daily?
Sorry about that.
That's a lot of money that you're giving somebody a lot of power to spend a lot of money in small increments, is what I'm saying.
Well, sure, counting the general fund and the water and sewer fund, I mean, we're talking $50 million a year, the city budget. So there'll certainly be a lot of, thousands of dollars worth of purchases every single day.
Yeah. Okay, so I need to go down the list. Janine wants to know, can anyone tell us the number of homeowners that have moved out since the new mayor came in versus when Mrs. Pixley was in office?
I can't answer that question directly. Obviously, we don't have that data, but I can say that right now, our housing market seems to be doing okay. Houses are selling pretty quickly, fairly fast still.
Okay, if I missed anybody, I'm sorry, because I know we went over some of the topics that are being brought up, so I'm kind of just trying to make sure I hit everybody. And then I posted, why did the city spend $10,000 on holiday lights during a pandemic?
What?
How was that approved?
Wants to, I'm happy to
Anybody?
take that one too. That, also was not approved by city council. I think some of you probably heard that at the last meeting. If they would have brought it forward, we just need to think about the whole budget's millions, right? So, I think I would have been in favor of a project that could, do something nice for the city. We certainly are in a pandemic and need to take that into account, but that also was not run through council, and it should have been.
So how do we hold the council accountable? Do we all have to go to ethics?
Party, may I jump in on this? It's Veronica.
Yeah, go ahead,
All right. Okay. I think we need to back up and recognize what council's role is, because it really has gotten confused in the last couple of years. Council is supposed to do the ordinances, set the yearly budget. They approve payment of the bills, which is where they catch some things. And I'll tell you, 5,000 is probably lower than most cities. At the county, it's 35,000. Now remember, our budget's like 500 million. But council's not supposed to make day-to-day decisions. That's why they hire a city manager. And if you haven't noticed, city managers have been let go recently. So I have to defend this council that they hold city managers accountable when these things are happening. Usually they give them a few, they'll give them a warning 1 year, they'll give them a few chances before they fire them, because if you fired one every 2 months, you wouldn't be able to find one. But if you remember the proper role of council, then you wouldn't tend to get mad at them for specific small purchases. Because he's right, with the $50 million budget, that kind of money is spent every day, and there's just no way that council members that make under 4,000 a year could be on top of all of that in all of those departments. Thank you.
Thanks, Veronica.
You should be aware of who spent the money. You know what I'm
Did
saying?
anybody else want to speak on that topic? Okay.
Real quick, I'll just make
Sarah.
one
Yes.
real quick comment. Okay, so you're right. I mean, there are things all the time that just happen, and I do believe that this present council does try to keep on top of everything the best that we can, and we try to catch everything. I think that we're really good at finding a lot of errors because we do stay on top of what's going on at City Hall. And we've had a lot of turnover, and we still are having turnover at City Hall to help, correct these issues. I do think that it's improving. I don't want anyone to think that it's not, because I mean, it is improving. There's a lot of different departments in City Hall, and I believe that they're all improving. So I do think that we're making progress in the right direction.
Okay. So from Jean, she writes, why are all the code enforcement vehicles just sitting in a lot and we are leasing from Enterprise? Are people that used educational funds of others going to have to return the monies or be reprimanded for using them? And who authorized the use of Harvey's funds? So that was a lot in one person's post. So if I need to repeat it, please let me know.
Well, maybe you talk about pretentious items. Since my name is on the screen in the chat room, at this moment, I don't know. There was $750 used for each council member gets so much money for conferences and things like that. And I think council is, $1,500. Anyway, $750 was taken out of my fund in order to pay the tuition cost of one of the other council members. I don't know. We're not done with that yet. There was a motion made to revise our policy about seminars and all, and I think a majority of the council voted for the new policy to delete the word education and keep the word seminar and conferences. Education can be used. You could use the word education and say, well, it says in our policy education, and I'm being educated. That doesn't matter. Excuse me for my. It doesn't matter what the hell it is. I'm a terrible golfer, but I know that that's where all the deals are made out in the golf course, at least the expensive golf course. So I want to take a class that's $1,500 down at Myrtle Beach to teach me how to play golf really well, so I can go and play golf, not be embarrassed, and make a deal sitting on the bench waiting to tee off on the third hole. Pretty ridiculous, isn't it? It's stupid. And that would never happen. So to answer the question, that second part of the question, we're still working on it.
Councilman Curley, can I ask the funds? I mean, no funds were spent. It was proposed, right? I mean, these courses we were talking about were not paid for, correct? As far as I know.
They were not what?
The courses were not paid for requested by the mayor. So as far as I understand, fortunately, you should still have your budgeted part. You know, she did try to use it, but
Well, we don't know that yet for sure. I mean, I can check money to see if my $750 is back to my account.
okay,
I
yeah.
bet-
As far as I understand, at this moment
I
in
bet it's
time,
not.
at this moment in time, it should be there. As far as I understand.
Oh, I have a question. The reason why I put that
Okay,
up
hold
there-
on. See, this is why we're having people to read them, because we're going to end up with too many people trying to talk at once, and that's not going to accomplish much. I did see hands raised over here, and that's fine too, but could we
I
at
don't have
least
that here.
give? I know.
Okay.
I'm looking at, if you pull up the participants, the hands that are raised, I can see that.
Oh, gotcha.
Because if we start talking all at once, we're going to be talking at cross purposes. Okay, so Jenny, go ahead.
Well, the reason why I put that up there about the funds being used, I think if someone uses someone else's funds without consent, that they should have to repay that money or be reprimanded for doing it. Harvey said he only attends one, maybe two conferences, and that when it was time for his conference, that he would hope that the council would approve the extra money that was taken out of his account. You know, fair is fair. And then I noticed at the last meeting that Cardi and Sarah said, well, we would like to attend this conference. We would like approval. That's exactly what needs to be done for each and every council person from here on out, because you just can't give them money because they're saying, I need money for a conference, if it has nothing to do with the city.
Okay,
I can
Sarah.
answer real
And
quick.
I'm a firm believer in that.
Okay, hold on. Sarah's about to
I
answer.
think Sarah and Cardi did exactly what needs to be done anytime somebody attends something.
Okay, Sarah's
Ms.
trying to
Gray?
answer.
Yeah, so that is why we went forward and we did put the policy in place. We do have a policy in place now, so anything, and that's why Mr. Monaco and I had added those to the agenda, because we knew we were going to be voting on that policy on that same evening. So moving forward, everything will come to council for approval before anyone can register for anything. So that's the reason why we did that. And I believe you also put a question in the chat box asking where the other council members are. I don't know if they had other obligations this morning or not. I don't think any of us would be able to answer that question.
So if they did take Harvey's money and he's short money to go to that conference, are you going to ask that council person to replenish his money? Or are you just going to give him more money out of the general fund?
Okay, can I interject here real quickly? I think that question, I think that's been answered, because between Harvey and Cardi, they've addressed that issue. And Cardi had said the money should be returned to Harvey's account, and it's not going to be paid. So I think we've answered that question, and I don't want to get bogged down in one thing, because we're already at 11:11. I know people have other things to do, and I'm trying to give everybody a fair shot at having something to say here today.
Okay, let's see. Jean also mentioned not using city credit cards. Pay cash and get a reimbursement upon return. A conference is not an emergency, that they would need a city credit card. Terry
Council
Jones.
doesn't have-
Yes,
Can
go
I
ahead.
just, council doesn't have city credit cards. Like, we have absolutely no direct access to any funds, the five of us. That's all.
Okay, and I want to remind people, please post your questions in here so I can get to them quickly. Terry says houses are selling quickly because homeowners are fed up with issues not being ignored and city going to hell in a handbag. Investors are buying these houses up fast and renting them out, says Stephen. And from Melissa, she wants to know proof. Gloria, let's see, we already answered that one. From me, why did the council sell properties on Kelly without public notice to one person for $1? I would have liked the opportunity to reinvest in my city. Anybody?
I voted against it, so.
I didn't see it posted publicly, so I'm kind of wondering why one person got, I don't know, 3 or 4 properties on Kelly for $1.
I voted against it also, so.
Okay. From LL Bivens, there are financial statements every month. There is no one else excuse using I don't know. Okay, let's see if we got any questions in here. Okay, Steve, I have an ethics question. When there is time, I think is important. Okay, Steve, you have an ethics question?
I do, and it's really short.
Okay.
Now, I know Harvey just walked away, but
He's coming back.
and maybe Veronica can answer this, I don't know. Is there like some sort of like collusion happening within the city because of like this money going out or things not being approved? I mean, what does council think is actually happening? Because I know I don't know, we're looking into it a few times to questions, and I know we're getting a little off base, but I mean, because from like an accounting standpoint, when you have collusion, like 2 people working together and I don't know the inner workings of the city and how the money's passed out, but I mean, is that, you know what I mean? Is that a possibility? I mean, it just happened in Macomb County with Eric Smith. He had 5-6 people working around with him to hide this stuff. So is this a similar situation, or is this not similar at all?
Mary, I'm happy to address that.
Go ahead.
So I voted against it, right? I didn't want us to sell that, but if 3 council people vote in an open meeting to do that, it's definitely legal. Like what we did, I believe, is 100% legal. I think we should have gone about it differently for sure, but absolutely no like collusion or anything illegal. Nothing illegal happened regarding that property.
Yeah, if I may jump in real quick, if there was something illegal going on, we wouldn't have known about the transaction. I mean, we did vote on it. It was brought to the table, so it was brought to the public that the sale was happening. And during, so the public had, proper notice to speak about it during hearing of the public, and I think we had a pretty lengthy discussion about it at that time of the agenda, when it came up on the agenda. So I don't think that anything like that is happening.
I see 10 items in the chat.
Moving on. Let's see what we got here. If you see, so I don't see anything else.
I don't know if it's anything different. Let's see.
Gloria wants to know, wasn't the sale supposed to be advertised in advance? Investigate and put the findings in the community paper. The lower rent is not going to attract good neighbors. I'm trying to find questions. I'm not finding any. Except for why wasn't it advertised in advance? And to me, that's part of it being illegal, is it wasn't advertised. Because, I could have given $1.
Yeah, I think just it's not illegal. I mean, I would have much rather done it, but I don't believe that it was, illegal.
Veronica would like to speak.
It's not actually related to this. I just wanted to speak briefly at the end of the meeting regarding what's happened with committees and the Eric Smith issue.
Okay.
If you want me to do it now, I will. It's not related though.
I think because I'm really trying to be cognizant of everyone's time.
Exactly, and that's why. And I apologize. I can't find the little raise hand icon, but that's why I said it after everything is done. I just wanted to give a real quick recap on that, so I won't bother anymore. Sorry about that.
No. Veronica, if you click on participants at the bottom of your screen. Okay, then you should be able to, if you hover over your name, you should have an opportunity to raise your hand.
Miss Hall?
Yeah.
So real quick, there was one other question. Someone asked in the chat box whether or not we could like add another seat to council to make it more equally diverse, like, you know, 6 votes. And I just wanted to comment real quick. We wouldn't be able to do 6. We could go to 7. We could never have an even number, because then we'd have ties. And the idea is to not have any ties when we make our decisions.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. Anything else in there anybody want to address?
I see a question about the fees added to the water bill from LL Bivens.
Is there a
That's all it
specific?
says. No. Address the questions about the fees added to the water bill. Sorry.
Would they like to speak? I'm trying to, oh, yeah, their hand is raised. Go ahead.
You have to
LL
unmute him.
Bivens? Okay. If you would unmute and ask the question, go ahead. They're unmuted, but I don't see, and the hand is raised. LL Bivens, I don't know who that is, so it's your opportunity to speak. Okay, well, if that was all somebody wanted was about the fees and the water bill, I guess that's it.
Mary?
Yes.
I think so. An earlier comment said a letter from Eastpointe stated there's a fee included in our water bills for 3 years. Has that fee been satisfied? I'm not sure what that would reference, unless we're talking about the special lighting assessment, the special assessment for street lighting, but that is included in your tax bill, not on the water bill. And we've been continuing that program to offset the lighting costs in the city. And we have converted all of our lights to LED in the city. So we are much more energy efficient now in the city as of just a few years ago, I think 2016 or something like that.
Okay. Veronica, if there are no other questions that council can answer, and if people want to stay after, and I realize some people have to leave, I'm gonna sit here till 12 o'clock and look silly if I need to, but
Could I say something again? I think when I said something about ethics, I know the very question prior was the sale about the buildings for $1, and I think everybody assumed that's what I was talking about, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just in general. Does council believe that it's possible? Could there be any sort of collusion going on within the city, and has it been looked into? Because I mean, for you guys to have a town hall and all these expenditures happening, are you actually looking into, like, who like what dealership were the cars from? I mean, just different things. Like, is it possible? Has anyone even looked into it or thought about it? Is it possible? That was more of what I was getting at. I wasn't talking about the buildings just specifically.
Sure, I'm happy to address that. So yeah, I don't think any collusion or anything like that is happening in the city. When we come across these, different things like the code enforcement vehicles, we'll bring them forward and address them. But I don't think, I think we've got, just in general, like the right, multiple people oversee various things before things are bought. I mean, obviously on these couple, like city council wasn't, but at like the administration level, like I'm unhappy with quite a few of these purchases, but I don't believe anything like that is happening. I don't believe so.
okay. Jeannie's hand is raised. Jeannie?
I was just wondering if anyone knew what happened to Brian from Animal Control. He was one of the best that I've seen, and no one seems to know where he went. And I see the job is posted, and there's an officer doing the job right now. until they find somebody. And then I also noticed in the next agenda that they're selling multiple properties again to one gentleman. Can anyone answer either question?
I can address the Brian question really quick. I did inquire about Brian because I think we were all very disappointed to see him go because he was such a huge asset to our community and he was so great and dedicated to his job, and he'll definitely be missed. As far as I know, he just went, moved ahead into like a better opportunity kind of came along. So he decided to take that, from what I understand. So he did write a really nice letter, to us, and I think that he will definitely be missed, and hopefully his replacement will do just as good of a job as he has done.
I can address that second question. Where the property that's on the agenda is not, it's one of our tax reversion properties we've fixed up and put on the market. We're approving to sell that to someone, whoever put in the, I don't know if highest bid. I haven't read the agenda here, but this was on the market, and now we're selling it to someone. We're selling one of those properties, the one that we fixed up on 8 Mile. It looks like they're buying it for $123,000 according to the agenda packet. But again, I haven't read through this, but this is one of the tax reversion properties that has been fixed up, which has been a big thing the city council has wanted to do.
Just Mary, just a quick comment on Brian. There's a note saying that you can be replaced, but you're irreplaceable. And I think a lot of citizens in Eastpointe feel that way about Brian. He has a lot of stuff that a lot of us don't have, and that's passion for his job. And he's to be commended, and we pray that whatever he's looking at, that he finds it.
Okay, Veronica, and then I'll have some closing comments after Veronica. Go ahead, Veronica.
All right, thank you. As you know, there was a change of the guard up at the county. We have 8 new county commissioners, and the seats, that the majority went Republican this year. Going into the election, there was 1 Republican that had expressed interest in the chair seat and 3 Democrats. Everybody who was really pretty active, involved in what's happening up at the county knew that I had not completed the whole Eric Smith forensic audit issue. Several commissioners wanted me to wait until Chair Smith, his brother, left to go after the issue. As you know, we ordered the forensic audit, we paid for the forensic audit, and we have not received it, and it's been 2 years. So I agreed to wait until he was gone, which would be right now, and I was going to move on it. I was I have several avenues to go through, but there is no court order that we aren't to get it, and there is no law that allows them to that allows the Michigan State Police to confiscate it or anything of that nature. So unfortunately, for the first time since I've been on the commission, the new chair didn't give those of us that were returning, well, me, any consideration for our seniority. And he contacted all the new Republican board members and offered them chairs before he contacted me. By the time he contacted me, he had already taken finance, audit, and budget away from me, which I was unaware of, so I cannot complete that process now, which I'm quite upset about. And he offered me Health and Human Services, but I declined for a number of reasons. Anyway, so I'm talking to the new finance chair and explaining to him what we need to do and how we need to go about it. My biggest concern is Eric Smith isn't going to be charged with everything that he did. I have the stack of checks right here. I know how he spent the money. And every year that we don't get that audit is a year that drops off the books that we can go after him for the money that he isn't charged for. So the new chair is not one of the individuals who expressed a desire to be chair. And so nobody saw that coming. So I wasn't having the conversations with him that I was having with the others. And so I just didn't see it coming that I was going to be removed from that position. I think everybody going in was in agreement that I would stay in that position. Unfortunately, he was not. So that's still out there, and the public still has a right to see that forensic audit, and so do we. And I fully intend on pursuing that because we paid for it, you paid for it, and you have a right to see it. That's all. Thank you, Mary, and I apologize for all the interruptions I did today.
Oh, that's not a problem. I think we could all understand things better when we actually have information rather than going on theories or whatever, speculation. And I really appreciate everyone who showed up today. Like I said, I don't want to hold anyone up. And Harvey and Cardi and Sarah and Veronica, much love to you. I know we don't always agree on everything. We don't have to, but I love you just the same. Okay?
Mary, I love you too. Mary, I love you too, but I love your background. I told you that before, but I also like your Hawaiian background.
Well, I'm using this one because I really need to promote this sculpture.
Absolutely.
You know, raising money, especially in this particular time, is not the easiest thing. So we're looking for every little bit we can get. And I thought if I used it as a background, people would ask questions and I could encourage them to go look on the Ease page on Facebook and you know, give us the donation. If it's more than $100, send it straight to the city of Eastpointe with Ease in the memo, and we can get going. But you know, it's just something that we've had quite a few good comments about the idea. And hopefully people will come on board and help us to see this become a reality. But thank you guys, I really appreciate it. I did put a note in the chat that if anyone would like to do this again or have an interest, not every month. Council members, you're here. What are your thoughts about this type of forum?
Mary, yes, thank you very much for hosting this today. I am more than happy to do this, you know, every couple of months if you wanted to host one. Maybe the weather will get nicer and maybe the pandemic numbers will get better. Maybe we can have one in a park or outside or something one day also. But yeah, no, I would definitely, I'm more than happy. I always try to make myself available to all the residents. You know, even if it's 9 o'clock on a Saturday night, if you have a concern, I'm usually, you know, ready to answer my phone. So anytime anyone needs anything, has any questions, I'm there. Please email me, call me. I'm open. Other than that, thank you again for hosting. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for everyone else who came out today.
Okay, Mary, ditto, what Sarah just said. I could repeat the whole thing. Our church in Royal Oak, this will be our 8th day, and I'm hosting the homeless there for another 8 days after today. And I need to be over in Royal Oak at our church by noon to welcome them and make sure they have the right bedding and feed them lunch. But I just want to tell them, and Mary, thank you. And everybody who asked the questions are great. I'm sorry that I couldn't answer all the questions, particularly the one about, well, never mind.
Harvey, thank you. Have a safe trip.
God bless everybody. And one other thing, if you get a crazy call on your phone, I've got 2 last week wanting money from me, but I'm going to mention that at the council meeting that they're going after seniors. And I don't know why they went after me if they're going after seniors, but they wanted me to get out my card, and they wanted me to send 4 $100 checks, but do it on Zoom to show the serial number. So they're only going after seniors, and my heart aches for all the seniors we have in Eastpointe. That some of them probably said, "Okay, just a minute, I'll get my card out," and okay, I'll go to the drugstore and get 4 $100 checks and send them to you. So just pray for the seniors that you know yourself how many seniors
Mhm.
get hooked up on that. So we just need to be vigilant and not let that happen to our people. So God bless everybody, and council members, I'll see you on Zoom Tuesday at 7:00.
Bye-bye, Harvey. Cardi?
And Mary, yeah, I guess first of all, I guess it's not, I don't think it's just the seniors, Councilman Curley. I've received a call that says, something like,
Oh, you did?
IRS,
Yeah.
been waiting for you, imminent arrest possible if you don't call back, or something
Yeah.
like that. So, obviously,
Everybody should be careful.
ignore
You're
those
right.
things or turn them into. I know there's a
Yeah.
way to do that. But I put a link in the chat if everybody, I think a lot of people on here have already taken that survey. I think it closes to, it looks like we expanded it to February 22nd. But open that link and we're going to be reconstructing 9 Mile. So like across the entire city, it's a very exciting project. We want your feedback on that link there. There's a couple, there's one survey that is mostly for all of us. So do that. And yeah, thanks for putting this together. I think this was good. And of course, anyone feel free to reach out to me. My phone number and stuff is all on my website, cardidemonico.com, but I'll put it in the chat too if anybody wants to give me a call or shoot me an email.
Yeah, I'll leave the chat open for a few minutes so I can make sure I save them. This is being recorded, and if anybody missed it, that who might want to know. I think it's important that residents and council members have an opportunity to hear one another without restrictions of time per se. At least a 3-minute time constraint, but and get some response. So if I missed the mark, then I apologize and thank you for everybody for coming out anyway. So, Jeannie, you had your hand up.
One last thing I would like to say is I noticed that during the council meetings, we have a new lady, Mariah. And I would just like to give a shout out to her. I think she's very professional. I don't know if she came from another department or she was a new hire, but she's been doing a really awesome job.
Okay.
That's on a positive note.
She probably would appreciate hearing that at a council meeting. Okay. Anyone else? Thanks, Shelley, for helping to try to steer this. Trying to navigate the waiting room and the chat can be a bit tedious and I'm sure most of you know that who've actually done this. So it worked out really well. I didn't mean to cut anybody off, but, intentionally being rude, but I think once an item has been addressed, we don't need to belabor it. And if you have any concerns, anything you want, I think everybody knows how to get in touch with me. Let me know. I put the email address to address the issue of a continuing format of this nature. Sarah, I really appreciate that. Sarah and Cardi are always responsive to me. I don't know if everybody can say that, but I bug them both. And like I said, even when we don't agree, we still get along. So I appreciate that from both of you. And Veronica is always on my case when I do something even remotely stupid. So she was trying to keep me right. Thanks, Veronica. I will open this up. Everybody can unmute, and if you have anything to say, because I think let's just go for it. Unmute, and if anybody has to leave, they have to go, and let's just have some fun until 12 o'clock. And I'm out.
Well,
I have a quick
I'll jump
question.
in. Whoops.
Rob,
Let Rob talk. I've been wanting to hear him talk because I was sad he didn't win a council seat. He was, I don't know. I can't imagine why not everybody voted for him. That's all I want to say.
Oh man, but that's really nice of you.
No, I just wanted to say thank you for hosting this, and thank you to Sarah, Cardi, and Harvey, and also Veronica for just being here to answer our questions. I think this was a really good forum. It was very respectful from person to person, and I'm looking forward to seeing another one. So just thank you for doing this, and Stephen, thank you for those kind words. I appreciate that. I'm still around somewhere, y'all. I'm easy to find though.
Oh, I know.
Riola.
I think there was one quick question here in the chat I saw that I could answer real quick about the medical marijuana shops. We approved of 3 dispensary licenses, and then 2 of each of transport and testing. But they basically are zoned along the major roads of the city. It's more specific than that. You'd have to see the map, but that's roughly the status on that.
Okay. Riola had unmuted.
Oh, no, I don't have anything, but
Oh.
I thought it was, no. I know, I just thought it was.
Yeah, I thought you had something to say.
This was just a wonderful opportunity, though, this morning. And again, thank the officials for coming out to answer questions.
Yep, I appreciate it.
If no one else has said it, I appreciate you all.
I'm going to try to do this again in March, hopefully. And so there won't be the problem with linkage. Several people contacted me about they had difficulty getting in, and I responded to that. But if I could email people directly the links to a meeting, it would make life so much easier. And that way people would be assured of having the right information. Not quite sure why people couldn't get in, because I actually tried clicking on the link to the event and was able to get right into it. So I don't know what happened, but stuff
I got
happens.
a question. Hey, Cardi, can we use the marquee to advertise our town hall meeting?
It's not a.
I know there's this, I think the DDA actually just talked about policy on that. I'm not positive. You could email the city manager and she could take a look at that and let you know.
Because I do remember our mayor saying it was free for all to use.
I
It's
don't
in
believe
the minutes.
that's not 100% accurate. If that was said, there are some guidelines. I think generally it's got to be a city organization or like an organization.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, that it had to be city initiated.
So probably, I mean, you can always, I would just recommend emailing Elke.
Finding out. Okay.
Totally.
Hello?
Gloria?
I just wanted to thank everybody who participated, and especially us. There's quite a few of us, and I thank all the councilmen who also showed up. And I really appreciate Veronica being here.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Anyone? Great. Thanks a lot.
All right, take it easy.
All right, see you, Cardi.
So you're saving this video, Mary?
Yes, I am saving it. And we're still recording and we're still live.
Right. Yeah, I see that there's only like 5 faces left, but yeah.
I can, let me see, I can stop the live stream now. Hold on. All right, live stream has stopped.
Hey, about these medical marijuana dispensaries they're putting out, I mean, Cardi mentioned there was a map. Do they know, like, or does anybody know, like, who the licenses were given to, particularly where are they going to be at? Because, like, we have schools all over the city, like, where's a safe place for it to be, type of thing. I mean, I know he mentioned a map or something, but
yeah, I know that the ordinance included how many feet away they had to be from schools or residents. So I can't remember what the specifics are, but I don't think people are going to just be allowed to open up a marijuana facility across the street from a school. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah,
But
that's correct information. And I saw Alyssa just commented, but I know I was going to speak on it too. The licenses haven't been given out yet. There's still a process that they have to go through while people are applying, and then they have to look at everything, review it all. So yeah, nobody's been given a license just yet.
Oh, I got you. So he was saying like you got like the council approved giving away 3 licenses. They haven't given 3 licenses.
they haven't been chosen, right?
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I got it. I misunderstood.
Yeah, it was like 7 different types of businesses that they voted to allow to come in.
Okay.
And that's just like the beginning of it, and so they still have to go forward with the rest of the process.
Okay, cool. Cool.
Alyssa, you haven't said anything. You're there, but you haven't said anything.
I like to be a silent observer, and I commented a couple times in the chat.
Okay. Well, because I had people leaving in and out, and it's like, okay, I can't keep track of, and they were pretty heavy there for a minute. We had over 20-some comments in the chat room.
Hi, Alyssa. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Cardi went and got me the Lady Gaga Oreos this morning, so I'm in a great mood.
Oh,
wait a minute. I didn't know about those. Hold on.
They're bright pink and the filling is green. It's delightful.
Oh my.
Yes.
Cardi's holding out on me. What's going on, Cardi?
Well, so I went grocery shopping on Wednesday, and the Oreos came out to the public on Thursday, and I only go grocery shopping like once a month because there's a pandemic. And so I was really disappointed. So I, not so subtly told him that if he loved me, he would go get them.
Oh, nice. Not so subtly. I love it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So do they taste like just the regular Oreos? They're just a different color, or is it a different flavor?
They taste like the golden Oreos. It's the same recipe, but with a lot of food coloring.
Oh, okay. I was
like
asking
they are
for a
bright
friend.
pink, and the filling is bright green.
Okay. I was asking for a
getting
friend.
a lot of food coloring.
Yeah, in case I have a friend that likes cookies, so I was asking.
So at Meijer, they're in aisle 11.
Oh, listen to this.
I looked on my Meijer app before he went.
Okay. So if I happen to be out and my friend is looking for these Oreos, I'll make sure that they get it.
Supposedly they're at 7-Eleven also. That was like one of the initial partnerships for the Oreo release of Lady Gaga's Chromatica Oreos. But they're now at, supposedly, I think like Meijer and Kroger and Target all have them.
Okay. Did they release those? Like, is it for a specific cause or something, or is it just like
the Chromatica? Lady Gaga's Chromatica album came out. I want to say like mid to early COVID, so like summerish last year in 2020. And the Oreo partnership was announced, I want to say in like September or October. And there was like some initial like offerings to like super crazy fan people, which, I should be a part of, but I'm not. And then she is auctioning off like, I think it's like 100 signed packages. And Lady